Hello and welcome to the News Coup Cruise podcast. This is our first episode. We are going to be talking about chapter 1054 of One Piece, the first chapter of the One Piece arc. It'll be our soon-to-be usual hosts, Christian, myself, as well as joined by
Jesse. Very nice to see you all again.
Yes. I hope you guys enjoyed our first little bit, I guess, the introduction to who we are and whatnot. So I guess we'll just get right into the chapter and how we felt about it. Chapter 1054, Flame Emperor, Entei. Okay. We start off with a beautiful spread of our brand new Yonko. Going from right to left, as is tradition, we have in Gear 5th, Monkey D. Luffy. Followed by Zihahaha himself, Blackbeard, Marshall D. Teach. Very next page in this double spread, we have red-haired Shanks, the only remaining member of the initial Yonko we were introduced to at the conception of what were Yonko for us, the viewers. And finally, the man himself, the king of the bit, who also can become bits, Buggy D. Clown.
Buggy D. Clown. And I cannot tell you how happy that makes me.
It's so cool. Yes. I love that they've done this.
I love it. And it's nice little bookends, you know. We both start, Shanks and Buggy, we both start very similar backgrounds, right? So it's nice to see that they're both together again, especially as Yonko.
Absolutely. We come back to Wano, the flower capital of Wano. And we start off with some off-screen voices, off-panel voices, that we quickly can pick up on are some of our Samurai Wano locals. Firstly named as the first speech bubble, Denjiro. So we know Denjiro's here, and we also see that they mention Come Cat, which we obviously know is Cat Viper, or whatever the actual name they decided for that was. When I read it, it was Cat Viper, and I never went back and read it again. So it's Cat Viper to me.
Cat Viper to me, too.
Awesome. We get the chapter title, Chapter 1054, Flame Emperor. And we have stepping onto the scene in his second ever manga appearance after his debut at the finale of the previous arc, our Green Bull Admiral Ryokugyu, I believe. Ryokugyu. And very quickly we can see that he means business.
Which, can we stop just right there? What an entrance. It's, how do you take someone who is such a big threat, so imposing, and put them in a floral concept, right? And how can this nature theme, flowers blooming behind him, be anything that is threatening
or menacing
like and boy, does that change so quickly.
I love the onomatopoeia below his step in that center panel on that first page that says flower. Our boy, Ryokugyu, or I guess this guy, I shouldn't call him our boy. We don't know him yet.
We don't know him yet.
We can't make decisions about him yet. We don't know if he's cool or not. Yeah, we don't know if he's cool or not. So he is rolling up on a crew, like we mentioned. We see Denjiro there, like I mentioned, Cat Viper, as well as Raizo, Shinobu, Dogstorm, and Kawamatsu. And they're all posted up, ready to fight Ryokugyu, who seems to have just filled his hindside or anywhere he walked through just with foliage right now. Lots of flowers. Very excited to see this animated.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be really pretty.
It's going to be beautiful, especially in the art style, because that twisting, blooming aspect of it, I think it'll lend itself really, really nice, because that it's going to be insidious. As he walks, it's going to be creeping behind him, and then all of a sudden you see just this lush forest behind him.
And then we're hit with reality, because you and I have both read this a few times in lieu of getting ready to talk about this. And it's going to get rough from here.
It's going to get real rough.
I had to disown him earlier in my sentence when I said our boy, because he's definitely not our boy. No, he is not. He very quickly turncoats and proclaims the godlyhood of the Celestial Dragons, a known force of absolute dog shittery. I don't like them,
Disdain.
And they're awful.
Yes.
So he's all about them for some reason, and quickly moves into the you have no human rights, which is also... Wow, buddy. Come on. Like, this is ridiculous. There's that peaking that Phil was worried about.
Yep.
Oh, man. So he quickly, kind of makes quick work, I would say.
Oh, I would second that.
as he reveals that it's a Logia, which I think is interesting. I think this is the first solid matter Logia, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Yes, yeah.
Because everyone else has been some form of liquid, gaseous form, or like, I guess a plasma, if you can, like
Plasma.
light or
or
magma. I guess magma is a really hot solid.
Yeah, but it passes through, or it's not. This is the first one where if this made physical contact with something, whether or not you want to, it is solid. Whereas the other ones, it's a gaseous state. We can pass through it or become solid matter if we want to. We've seen that before. Light, transpose through things, but only if the user wills it. This is, whether you like it or not, you're going to get messed up.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think some of the visuals are, again, really, really cool. Him shoving his hands in the ground and the big fist coming out of the air as he proclaims racism and how the select few are the only ones that should deserve anything, and literally says discrimination creates solace.
Yes.
Wow, guy. This is definitely one of those like classic Oda style like red herrings. It's like you'd think the guy was cool. He's talking about like first time we met him, he's talking about like sleeping with chicks and not eating and like has like whole like chill demeanor to him. So you really think with the wavy hair, he'd be the more laid back one. Fujitora and Akainu are really, really have the uptight look to them, and Kizaru is aloof.
Pretty, yeah.
But then this guy looked like he was going to be the fun one, and we fell on the other side of the spectrum. Like I really feel like
unbridled rage was his thing.
Like Akainu is like awful. Don't get me wrong, but this just feels incredibly directly evil and awful.
Yeah.
Whereas the good intentions are there in Akainu's vision, it's just he has no moral compass ends justify the means to him.
Ends justify the means.
And to him, it seems like the means and the ends need to all be evil.
Yes.
Or in itself,
It is absolute.
Gross.
It is too clear directive of where his intentions lie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's not dwell on him too much. I know he's the newest character we're meeting, but
I will say,
I'm not talking about him.
I question if when he uses his devil fruit, if it is specifically area bound or based off of where he is, he can only grow certain things, because this fits very much into the Wano style. Correct. These are groves. I don't believe they're mangroves, but I just think it's really interesting because this is basically the visuals of what we've seen of Wano already, and whether or not this is his doing, or he can only kind of call forth the powers quote unquote of nature that he's using, and if it's only that he can use whatever's in the vicinity.
I can see where you're coming from, and I could see that being the case. But my retort to that would be that Wano is just a generally unfounded land.
You're right, yeah,
a lot of just open greenery and such. So maybe less that it's bound to the area, but more that there's just more space to work with.
Just more space to work with.
Yeah, I feel like watching his powers work in a cityscape. Like I assume they're going to be fighting,
of course,
at Marawa, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure they're going to fight there. He's going to fight somebody there. He's
going to fight someone,
and it's going to be a whole interesting thing to see the dichotomy of the woodscape versus these like elegant buildings.
Yeah.
And knowing that the elegant buildings are evil, but so is the nature. Yeah, like I'm interested to see who's going to fight him towards the end of everything, because that's just where you kind of see the things going. So whoever he does fight, I feel like it's going to be really interesting, and I really hope they get someone to like juxtapose him really well. Like Sanji with flaming kicks or something like that. Tearing down burning down the forest and demolishing buildings. Yep. It'd be interesting.
Who are we going to see fight him?
Yes. So we continue on as he is like mildly dealing with the samurai. They're like working as best they can. They're just post a big fight. It was like a week after the fight, I think. This is a few days after.
It was a few days. Right? We've been celebrating for a few days now.
Yes. And then the prodigal son returns and comes in with an overhead strike with their Konobo and pushes this admiral's face into the ground. A known Logia now pushes them into the ground. And he reacts appropriately by saying, "Yow, that's some tough hockey." Obviously, Yamato is now on the scene, son of Kaido. And they are proclaiming freedom for these people who are in destitution and slavery for all this time under Kaido and Orochi. And Ryokyogu really comes in right now with the energy that you don't want post a whole liberation front and a successful opening of a country. Well, opening in quotes because Momonosuke decided to keep it closed in the last arc, but whatever. So to then have this direct, like, you can't take these people's
subjugation.
Freedom. Yeah.
Immediately. We've had this, a people's in turmoil, the haves and the have-nots, to the extreme. I mean, they were taking fruit literally out of people's hands to those that couldn't do anything with it. It sat rotting. And then immediately you are met with, no, there's some people actually, you're lesser, and this force of literal subjugation back again of nature. And he's claiming it like this is the natural order, which is something else I think that is really beautifully encapsulated in here.
And disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting.
Well, quickly joining the scene of action, we have a character I mentioned in a brief moment ago, Momonosuke, in his full pink dragon form, as he attempts to throw his first bolo breath, or blast breath. And, nothing. Just nothing. Even Ryokyogu's like, what's going on? And then he proceeds to do a cool little cartoon run in the, like, Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner fashion, as he chomps down on what is now a very wide tree. I feel like he was not that wide in previous panels.
It was not. I believe it's almost like coming up and out and growing as each scene continues. He's truly becoming this forest.
And we have the dealing with of Momonosuke by a Logia user, Trax. That feels like it'd be pretty accurate considering Logias are known for their ability to surround, encapsulate, and control the substance around them. Ooh. So Momonosuke gets restrained. Yamato, I guess, would be going in for an attack right now if this was animated. Mm-hmm. And Momonosuke stops them, tells them not to do it. And we don't get a conclusion as to why that happens. So I would say that's probably like the first major scene of this chapter. Yeah. I would say there's a handful of scenes here to go through. And we're about to get into the second one. You want to take this one over?
Ooh, if I have the chops for it. So we open up and we are on, this is now a flashback, Borders of Black, and this is a flashback to Shank's crew.
I'm going to stop you right there. Yes. This is not a flashback.
Oh, this isn't the flashback yet.
This is not the flashback
that's
yet.
Right. We have not reached the flash. Oh, that's right. No, you're correct. This is actually, we have now on the scene, that's right, Shanks and crew. They are very excited, always our Shanks crew, always ready for a party, always ready for a fight. And very aptly, so we see the scene, we see the ship, high seas, they have made it here, and they are all resounding applause. Luffy is a great pirate now. I love that, and we will see more of that as we go on, but it's nice to see flag held high, Shanks flag. It's been ages.
And it has been. Roger.
And it has been. It's been ages for us. It's been ages for them. I don't know. There's something. It was such a quick panel of it's been ages, ellipse, right? But there's something about when you see their Jolly Roger that it brings you back, and I think it brings a lot of people back whenever Shanks. Because come on, I mean,
first real content.
Yeah,
like, it's Shanks related.
They are now speaking about, these kids in their lives. They're growing up. They're proud. I mean, this is the titular father figure, right? That we have all been a part of. We've seen the growth of them all.
Absolutely. One of the things I wanted to point out from here, though, is I think in the words that we can tell now that Shanks are saying by that third panel in the scene, as that last, since we said farewell to Odin, is pointing at the silhouette of who we know is Shanks.
Who we know, of course, is Shanks.
He says, beginning, there's a weird one mixed into the bunch. So Shanks' hockey must be, like, we know Shanks' hockey is S tier. Like, yes. He's a Yonko who is fed by his hockey. Everyone else has been a Devil Fruit user. He's the only one we don't know if they're a Devil Fruit user or not.
Yep.
But he's sitting here, and he's probably picking out the fight right now between Ryokyogu, Momonosuke, Yamato. And that's why he's saying there's a weird one amongst them, because they all are, they know Luffy's here. They've seen the news coup dropped off. News coup crew.
No, news coup crew.
They've seen the posters dropped off, as we'll see in a scene coming up. So I think that's pretty insane that his observation hockey is implied, at least, to be that far out. Like, they're on the sea, and they fought in the capital. Like, they were fighting in the capital of the city. And most city capitals, unless you are a river-based civilization, if you are in a whole continental island of type, you're probably a little more inland,
Yep.
Someplace a little bit more defensible, especially when everything in the world is a sea.
Especially when your entire world revolves around sea travel and faring. Yeah, probably someplace you would want more defensible than everyone coming on the spot.
Yeah, looking at you, Marineford.
Yeah. Then we see the whole crew. Captain, let's go see Luffy. We're all excited. And it's nice to see because it's, again, we grew up with these characters. Luffy grew up with these characters. This was like his family, right? The found family, the quintessential, this is who he made. And it's nice because, the whole story is always about found family, your crew, correct? And it was very heartwarming for me to see them again and to see their joy Joy Boy, their joy in seeing Luffy. And so we are all very excited. Let's disembark. I don't think ready to see Usopp yet. That's his father speaking, right?
Yep.
And it's always, he's knocking around. But we're happy. We're happy here. In a weird way, there's been that calm after, the fighting, the nonstop fighting. And then we have Shanks.
I don't think we have Shanks just yet. I think this panel with our boys Lucky Roo, Bonk Punch, Monster, Yasopp, and Lime Juice. These guys, heavy hitters, but you haven't seen them do anything.
We haven't seen them do. Yes,
we've seen Lucky Roo shoot a guy, and we've seen Yasopp in a filler snipe something against another guy named Daddy during the Logtown filler stuff.
But we have not seen them yet. We have not actually seen them really seriously fight.
No, I'm interested to see how they fight. I know like Lucky Roo took the shot.
Yeah.
So you'd imagine he shoots, but I feel like that's just like the pirate thing is that they shoot.
That's just
Yasopp's definitely the shoot, like the gunslinger,
course,
sharpshooter, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Be really cool. I want to see what Bonk Punch does. I feel like him and Monster obviously do some sort of combo.
Of course.
And whatever Lime Juice is about. I like his aesthetic.
Yeah.
But more importantly, though, before we get into... I know you want to talk about Shanks.
I want to. I'm skipping ahead so hard.
Very specifically, Lime Juice brings up that snot-named Kid is still around, right? And he's got to pay for picking a fight with us. Now, we know, going into current One Piece, that several members of the Worst Generation, our 11 Supernovas, had kind of banded together in their own respects to take down certain Yonko. Now, we remember that Apu, X-Drake, Hawkins, Killer, and Kid all came together to take down red-haired Shanks. So this is confirming there was something about that, because I really feel like that came and went. They brought it up, and then they got aired by Kaido.
Yeah.
So why did any of that matter, if not to bring up this scene here now, causing some sort of tension
between their crew,
which we were hoping to see, but again, off-screen. I feel like Kid's greatest accolades are all off-screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Kid.
Kid's okay.
Kid's okay. Yeah.
I think magnet powers are really cool. I just think that he's okay.
Yeah, I think he's okay. I think that is a solid observation. Ambivalence. Yeah. Ambivalence towards him. He's not terrible.
Well.
The smile on my face right now.
Yep.
And he just the reverence that he looks down and he sees Shanks looks down and he sees his boy. He sees Luffy. And Luffy, in his wanted poster, it is now the Gear 5th. And the slight smile on his face of like, this is, who I saw potential in, this snot-nosed kid himself, originally peeking out of, barrels, going into treasure chests and, biting, fruit, to see him become now a Yonko.
On the same level as himself.
On the same level as himself. And Buggy.
And Buggy.
And Buggy.
And Buggy.
And Buggy.
And Buggy.
Very excited.
All right. Well, here we are in that flashback you had jumped the gun on.
Oh, yes. Sorry. So I believe actually, is this, so the first panel, correct me if I'm wrong, this is now Shanks looking down at still the newspaper and the wanted poster before we start going into the flashback, that very first.
I believe that the double line panel and then
is starting
the ship
to lead
panel
into
that's Red Hair's ship.
Yes.
I think that's the leading into
like
the
the fading of the memories. Yes,
as it fades into flashback.
Yes. So that's Red Hair. Shanks seems like they're CP9 agents on board. That's trouble. And now the dream sequence, and now it's Shanks back in his heyday. Nothing to worry about, and the cavalier attitude, going straight forward, guns blazing on his ship, and this is now leading into, I suppose this is before, right? We see when in the first few episodes when they're in port, this is when Shank's crew is now actually transporting the devil fruit, the gum fruit, before we actually see it as we saw it through Luffy's eyes for the first time. So this is Shank's memory looking back into it. And we say we see who's who, which we off camera. I had to familiarize myself with that because it's baby who's who.
Baby who's
who. And the entirety of CP9 agents, they're all going after. And what is it? What's in this treasure? It's a single devil fruit, and all it does is it turns you into rubber, right? So this is the question. This is the big question. Why are CP9 agents going after a single devil fruit? Is it because of its potential itself, or what are we looking at? And then we see more flashbacks, right, off of the ship. That was stormy weather. We're riding through it. We now go back into peaceful times, into Luffy's memories. This is kind of where we start seeing Shanks. He gives Luffy the straw hat. We see the moment where Luffy is drowning, right before Shanks loses his arm, and a smile, right, on his face, because I think he knew in this scene, right, he was sacrificing a little piece of himself for the future, and I think that we can see that, and that beautiful bite. There is a panel of, again, we're coming out of that dream sequence where we see the work of the Sea King, thank you. And we see the work of it. We see the bite taken out from the arm, and then again that reverence. We're coming out of the dream sequence, and we see Shanks holding on to what was left, of his arm, and he smiles still because he knew now, right? He confirmed that Luffy was special, and that it was all kind of worth it. It was all worth it in the end.
Absolutely. And I think that's fantastic. I love Shanks in this scene. I love Shanks every time he shows up.
Every time he shows up.
So cool.
Yeah.
And honestly, the next panel here is probably my favorite panel of this chapter.
Oh, really?
I think as a standalone panel, I think it's fantastic. If you don't mind, I'll
please, yes.
The scene is 3 unnamed and never before seen members of red-haired pirates. And they're just kind of talking, and it starts with one of them saying, "Guess all the bosses know that Straw Hat Luffy guy." Next guy says, "You know what I heard about? You know what I heard about Straw Hat Luffy? That he's like some monstrous, uncontrollable ape of a man. At least that's what they say." This is the first time we're seeing the legend of Luffy, of Monkey D. Luffy. Every other time, it's always been people don't really know what he's about. They've seen him do things here and there. But now that he's a Yonko, now that he has all of this history, now that he's pulled off tremendous feats, unseen feats of taking down 2 emperors in a war setting, while they're combining their efforts against you, this is insane. This is our first time since it happened getting someone else's perspective on Luffy.
You know what? That brings into perspective a whole new part of this one panel. I was like, all right, yeah, we're talking about Luffy. I mean, we always talk about Luffy, but these are 3 unnamed characters as of yet, unnamed characters perhaps, and we see the ripples, right? Because that was all what it was about. Is the emperors, they're these unstoppable forces, and can the new generation even keep up? And they're like, no, of course not. They have a grip on their power, and there's no way to defeat them. And this is the culmination of their efforts.
And then, very important follow-ups, if you want to take it back over.
No, because it makes me sad.
Oh, it makes you sad.
Shanks, he speaks for the first time, right, since the flashback, and he explains, "I'm not interested in seeing Luffy." And I get it, and I understand. This panel is because it's taking the training wheels off, right? You know, you've done good, kid. You don't need me around. It's Nanny McPhee rules, right? Yeah, when you don't need me, but I wanted them to meet. I wanted them to see.
So I'm gonna throw this back at you and see what you think about this, because this immediately struck something in me, and that is, I want them to meet in the same way and in like one-for-one shots fashion, because we have something to reference this for, and that is the flashback for Odin of Whitebeard and the Roger Pirates. I want to see them come back together as the frenemies, like Whitebeard and Roger had.
And Rogers.
I think that is so much more impactful than them just seeing
a reunion of friends.
Luffy doesn't need a father.
No.
I mean, he has one and several father figures, but he doesn't need one. He's always been his own person. Yes. He's always been about himself and being free and doing his own thing. So having this like touching reunion moment where like, oh, they'd see each other and be so happy to see each other. I mean, they're going to be happy to see each other.
They will be happy.
But they're going to clash. Like the Luffy is going to put the bottom of his indestructible sandal right up against Shanks' sword, whose name escapes me at the moment.
Yes. You know what? I think I can, I'm in your camp. And it is much more impactful, but as the first of the father figures that we see, it would have been nice to see them just for a brief moment, even just the acknowledgement, even the observational honky moment of them, kind of seeing each other and Luffy having that acknowledgement. But I think it will be much more when you see the iconic Luffy smile, no eyes, when you just see the smile as they are about to clash, because you know that there is probably no more pride that Shanks can feel fighting or clashing, with Luffy, and with Luffy feeling like he is standing on equal ground finally with Shanks. Yeah, I'm excited to see that, and hopefully, we will see that.
Yeah, I don't think we're too far out on the hockey thing, though, because Luffy's a Yonko, too. Mm-hmm. So maybe, he's still here. Shanks is still technically in the area, and we've only gotten a single chapter in. So maybe Friday we'll see how Luffy feels about, maybe he feels Shanks, or maybe someone says they spotted the red-haired pirates off the coast. And because this is the first time that Luffy's been conscious when the Shanks red-haired pirates showed up. Because the last time that they were in the same place together, Luffy was unconscious from a traumatic event and an almost fatal wound. Thankfully, Kobe, the GOAT. But please continue.
Do you want me to just continue on with... so this is the continuation where Shanks' crew... This is still from earlier, before the flashback, correct?
No, I think this is... He had the flashback. We had my favorite panel. He says he's not interested in seeing Luffy, and then Lucky Roo responds with, what? No? Like, what do you mean? I don't understand. And then Shanks reminds them of a very important thing that is probably the most exciting single blurb. Like, I had my favorite panel, but if a standalone speech bubble had me, it'd be this next one, and that's, oh, there's that follower of Luffy's, Bart something. Oh, my Lord. What did Barto do? Yeah. Well, he burned our flags down and replaced them with Luffy's. You know what? Good on you, Bartolomeo. Good on you. You're doing God's work here. You're doing Luffy's work right here. Mm-hmm. This is what you're supposed to be doing if we were a normal kind of pirate crew.
Yeah.
But what you've forgotten is that you're a gangster, and these are pirates. More importantly, though, this is the crew of pirates that don't seem to care about the pirating aspect of pirates, more about the freedom aspect of pirates. Yes. So to like exert territory and so on and so forth, I feel like Luffy could be supportive of it, but I don't think he's going to be super about it.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he would be supportive of it, but I'm glad that there was a mention of, right, Bartholomew?
Yeah, Bartolomeo.
Yeah, Bartolomeo.
Yes.
You can see when I've only read certain things.
Yes, that's Barto, our good old peacock.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Or as Robin called him, chicken.
Chicken.
Yes.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah. And then we get, Ben Beckman. I love that scene. Mm-hmm. I love Kizaru. Oh, Ben Beckman. It kills me every time.
And then we move on, right? The sharing of the wine, the vino, the
Sake.
the sake.
A good first mate
Yep.
pours his captain a nice glass of sake.
Yep.
And as he does,
I think that it's time we make our move, says Shanks. And then there's a moment where he looks over, first mate, and then let's claim the One Piece.
Doom. Big old onomatopoeia straight up in the front of the
Straight up. And this is the first time that I can remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I've ever seen Shanks give this look. This is we're out for blood. This is the first time I've ever seen this serious of a look on him.
It's go time. This is
go time. This is no more fun and games, because I always associated Shanks with a good time,
of course.
And this is the first time that we have ever seen such a serious side of him.
I feel like we could find this in on the Moby Dick's deck when Shanks and Whitebeard clashed. There's probably a moment that
a moment of
has
seriousness,
this energy.
Of the energy, but of this level, this magnitude of one purpose.
Yeah, like it's an intensity, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like it's a certain level of like there's a neutral energy on his face, and that in itself is the like, oh
yes,
this is serious.
Yes. This is come hell or high water kind of seriousness.
Yeah, it is. All right. Any final thoughts on what I will call scene 2 of chapter 1054?
I was so happy that we all got to experience the joy of seeing Luffy succeed in one of father figure's eyes, Yeah. And I like that you said that. He's had multiple father figures, and whether or not he's really needed them in the capacity to guide him, I think that they were goals for him to shoot for, but never really needed. Luffy knew who he was. These were inspirations, but I think, always knew who he was and what he was about.
Absolutely. So we enter scene 3 at the Navy HQ in the New World. And finally, after teaser and teaser and teaser and a long-standing break from Reverie, we finally get to find out what the heck has been going on in the world of One Piece outside of our closed country of Wano. And we bring up the revolutionaries, because that's where we left off, really, was the commanders.
Really
we met the commanders. Sabo was there, and Jewelry Bonnie was there, too. That was another person who ended up there as the little old pink lady, remember?
Yes.
And then we found out her purpose there was to get Kuma. And as we'll find out soon, she was there, but she doesn't come up in this chapter. Well, we'll get there. So they talk about all of the different revolutionaries now because of an event. In particular, as the titular for the chapter, Sabo is now known as Entei, the Flame Emperor. And at least that's what they're calling him. He's the hero of the entire world, Sabo the Flame Emperor, Flame Emperor Sabo. They mention, the old descendants and the history of the world government. And 800 years ago, the world government was created by 20 founders. Only the descendants of the Nefeltari clan came in. We know them because we know Vivi and Cobra from the Alabasta saga. Awesome, fantastic, wonderful saga. And we find that Sabo has killed our king of Alabasta, Cobra, which tracks for what the Revolutionary Army is about.
Right.
But also feels weird considering we kind of find both of these characters to be friendly.
Yes. So it's been a while since we've been to Alabasta, and Cobra, right, was nothing if not welcoming. And, it seemed to be fairly innocuous. But I guess in terms of the revolutionary standpoint, right?
Yeah, I think wasn't Alabasta the first place we met, like, the concept of revolutionaries?
I believe so, yeah.
Vivi's love interest, that kid with the very basic Macaulay Culkin style haircut and the sunglasses with the duster, Koga, something like that. He was the first, like, Revolutionary Army kind
leader.
of character.
Yeah,
he was like there was the pocket militia.
Yes.
But it wasn't properly the Revolutionary Army at that time. But
and it was fairly easily stomped.
yeah, I mean, yes, no. It was the driving force from Baroque works to like incite the inception of Pluton, which was apparently that bomb that didn't kill our bird friend Pell. Let's not talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that because that's still that's neither here nor there. Yes,
Yep.
we acknowledged it. We've moved on.
I'm happy it happened after Alabasta,
of course,
because now I don't have to include it as a stain on that wonderful saga's record.
Yes.
So we move on to more details in the form of a flashback that the land of the gods, the living area of the celestial dragons, had the hoof of the celestial dragon, that awful symbol that we had explained to us by the lovely Empress Boa Hancock, Pirate Empress. And they destroyed it in a declaration of war. Now, this reminds me a lot of Enies Lobby when Sogeking shot the Firebird Star and took down the world government's flag from the top of the Tower of Justice.
Yes.
And we find that our admirals Ryokugyu, who we now know and hate, and Fujitora had led the navy into the battle during Reverie. And I think isn't that where we saw Ryokugyu's silhouette the first time? Was like in preparation for Reverie?
I stretching back into
it was
the
a while
archives,
ago.
but I think you're probably right. I think it was just a visage of who would later be. Yes.
This awful character.
Yeah. Yes.
So we got our boy Kuma out of the clutches of the celestial dragons, and everyone made it out okay. You know, a lot of the foreshadowing we've gotten from like mentions of Sabo and what happened with Reverie, and whenever we got like a perspective outside of Wano from like the CP0 people and whatnot, it always sounded like something happened to Sabo.
Yeah, I will agree with that.
It fit that model really well because we had seen this happen already in the form of Ace during Sabaody Archipelago and Amazon Lily. We knew that something was going on there because we saw their fight scene. And we saw some lead-up events with Sabo that obviously put him in a very dangerous location, like probably the most dangerous location aside from the Onigashima fight at this moment. And to find out that he's okay is like super interesting.
We're allowed this one thing. Yeah. We were allowed one thing.
Yay, we got Sabo. We got to keep Sabo.
We got to keep Sabo. We got Kuma back. We were allowed this one just for now, and let us enjoy this. This is a chapter where a lot of things are happening. A lot of factions are coming back together, but we are allowed just a little bit of joy. Yes.
King Cobra is dead, but Sabo's alive.
We have
Sabo's alive. We have Sabo still. And then we get into something that I actually touched on earlier that I didn't even realize. Maybe I subconsciously thought about this because this one little blurb here is I'm certain that it was difficult for the admirals to exhibit their full powers in the land of the gods. Now that kind of ties into like wanting to see Ryokugyu fight at a later date.
Yep.
In the land of the gods, I assume will be a final location for battle in some form or fashion for the One Piece arc. And then we find out something that like puts a weird taste in my mouth, and that is that Princess Vivi, our honorary / actual Straw Hat member, she disappeared at the same time of Cobra's murder. So knowing who Vivi is and how we like her, and knowing that Cobra is not a terrible person, this really feels governmental conspiracy in our favor, you know?
Hoping
it's in our
favor. Yes.
I think the other idea here of being like maybe Cobra sacrificed himself.
Safely spirited away was what I was going with. But I do like government conspiracy on this one. Just my own opinion on this, it was much more to spirit her away to safety kind of thing. Don't know if it was necessarily Cobra self-sacrificing. In fact, that just made me think, I wonder if it's like, is it a confirmed Cobra is gone? Or because I could buy into governmental conspiracy with this whole situation, or maybe Cobra is still alive, you know?
If they're saying he was murdered, then I assume they have some form of proof. That would kind of be part of it. But saying, because they specifically said that he was murdered and that she disappeared. Which means that would say that if both of them were just missing, there's no confirmation that he was murdered. Right. Because then you'd also assume that she was murdered. So they're not assuming that. So there must be some form of tangible proof that they're saying that King Cobra has been murdered. But because Vivi disappeared at the same exact time, we know she's a very familial person. Yes. She loves her father. So she wouldn't just leave him like that unless there was an issue. Which is why I think the government had it out for the Nefeltari family in some capacity. Maybe they were leaning towards the side, like seeing Coda, our Macaulay Culkin having a sunglass duster guy out in the desert, seeing his passion for it and seeing Vivi's support of him. Gotta love that hot young boy, hot young lover stuff. Hot young boy was the wrong thing to say.
Hot young
what
boy
I meant to go was
but no, please continue.
I meant like they're lovers.
Hot
and
young
they have
boy
that,
love. Got
yeah,
it.
hot young love was where I was going with. Not hot young boy ever, never. Not that.
Maybe from Vivi's perspective though. So maybe that's why.
So. But back on the topic of what I was trying to get at though, like maybe the Nefeltaris were appealing. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe they were trying to appeal during Reverie. I feel like they were a pretty driving force in addition to King Riku's efforts about the abolition of the Shichibukai, which came down during Reverie. This happened either a day or possibly like moments after that decree about the Shichibukai came down. So they're dealing with the backlash of this pretty soon after that. And pretty soon after the Shichibukai got dismantled, Buggy got named an emperor. So what did Buggy do in this, I assume, less than a week's time to go from being an excommunicated Shichibukai to becoming one of the 4 emperors?
Let's stop there. That's I want that to be a part of this podcast. Is what did Buggy do? now, what did Buggy do now? I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll save that for now. So that's my feelings right now with the whole Nefeltari family disappearances, murders, etc. And as we continue on, we get our director of the Naval Bureau of Investigations, Kuromu, and this is Tensei. Now, as I did a little bit of digging into this character, into some other things, did you realize that the admirals and all of the admiral candidates are Chinese zodiac epithet?
I did.
Yes.
And we're missing a few.
This guy's horse.
This is horse.
Oh. Yes, there were 3 potentials for admiral.
Right.
One was horse, one was rabbit, and then the other one was pig.
Yep.
But the ones that ended were tiger, bull, and monkey remained. Rooster, crow, like pheasant, whatever you want to call for Aokiji, he left, and then Akainu, the dog, is now in charge. You could kind of see that maybe Sengoku was goat.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe he was goat because he has that little goat that he chills with sometimes. Yeah. And so then what we're really missing then is Snake. I don't really know my Chinese zodiac, so I only realized that I only knew Snake off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Snake, ox. No, because Green Bull. Green Bull is bull. Yes. Yeah. Let's get off of that because I'm not informed at all about this topic, and I'm mostly talking up in the air about it. So this internal affairs brings up that it has impacted Alabasta in several ways, obviously, now that the king is dead, the princess is missing, and also that the royal ship is still at Redport. So they're still there, which kind of also leads me to my conspiracy theory idea.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you'd let them go.
You get more support in this one.
Yeah, you'd let them go, right? Like, why would you keep their ship there? Like, it's not like you suspect them of killing people. Mm-hmm. So I have fear that the entirety of that ship has been killed. So now I got to go back and look at Reverie to see who Vivi's aides were, because they might all be gone.
Oh, yeah.
Because I do specifically remember not seeing Igaram. Mm-hmm. And that felt interesting to me because I feel like he'd be the one to bring, right? Like he's your head butler, he's your head of security, he's your head of military. You'd bring him along on the guarded military voyage.
Would you not?
Right?
Yeah.
So this is weird. I think I'm thinking too far into the conspiracy theory, but it keeps building. And then, oh my lord, it has been so long since we've heard your voice, Kizaru.
Yep.
And there he is, bringing up the attempted murder of St. Charlos. Now, the attempted murder of St. Charlos, is that when King Neptune was going to punch him, or was that something else? Is that something that we haven't seen yet?
Undecided.
Right?
Undecided.
That's fair. So then we'll keep going. Brings up St. Miosengard, who is the celestial dragon that fell down to Fishman Island, that the sea princess, a sea queen, the Fishman queen had like pardoned and like vouched for, and basically like rehabilitated into being more of a normal person.
As best as you can if you're born a celestial dragon.
Yes. And apparently now the Holy Knights have intervened and are taking over the case for whatever happened to St. Charlos. I'm interested because I hate him. Seeing him get punched in the face was not enough.
No.
No.
Not nearly.
And Akainu agrees and just says, yeah, you know what? Go ahead. Let them take care of it. We don't got to worry about it. If they want to deal with the Celestial Dragon investigation, they can do it. We got bigger fish to fry. There are new emperors. So our horse, would-be Admiral Kuroma, says, but in each case, the public is convinced that Sabo was the one pulling the strings. So this is leading back into the original statements about this, saying that Sabo is the cause of all these incidents, and Sabo killed Cobra. They mention something here called the 8-Nation Revolution. What is that? What do we think that is? And now the many sparks of rebellion smoldering all over the world. Is the 8-Nation Revolution something we've seen before?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so either.
So,
I think we're meeting a lot of new things here.
I was thinking that this was, again, these small factions all finally coming together and maybe growing. All these revolutionaries, all the revolutionary ideals that we've been seeing, right? Because looking back is every time the Straw Hats kind of go someplace new, there's always the revolution, right? There's always that overturning of power. There's always something in the mix of the power dynamics. And I'm wondering if this is the first time that we actually have a mention of it from the world government's side, of seeing, hey, we can't stomp it out this time. We can't gloss over it. We're acknowledging it, and it's the first time that we are seeing their acknowledgement of it.
And then we get our second double, I think. Oh no, there's a few here, but this one is of our newly crowned Flame Emperor Sabo in a hole above the gallows with a group of people assumed to be new revolutionaries, all praising and worshiping him like a god. And they literally say that. The first thing it says in the double panel are beginning to worship him like he's some kind of god. The Flame Emperor, Sabo, they're all shouting. And they even say that he might have more influence than the commander-in-chief of the revolutionaries, one Monkey D. Dragon. Mm-hmm. As we see more from our beloved Kizaru, mentioning as the next person in the list of new characters to mention that he's an emperor, we now have Kizaru talking about Luffy being an emperor. Kizaru must be impressed because Kizaru was face-to-face with members of the Straw Hats back in the Sabaody Archipelago. And then we have this new crier guy who is absolutely decked out, who is just screaming, in the world of pirates. Oh, his fit's great.
Love the fit.
And look at him. Just like I said about Kizaru, this guy is out here screeching to the heavens and screeching to the revolutionaries. Yep. In the world of pirates, the Flame Emperor's brother has upended the old order. The times are indeed changing. He's screaming about Luffy.
Yep.
Fantastic. And then, in probably the first time I've ever actually felt some level of empathy for Akainu, he says, this is one hell of an age I had to be a fleet admiral in. You got it, bud. You really got that classic, the last term really handed you a terrible opener, and you're having to deal with all the nonsense that came out of them.
And so close to retirement. That's how it feels. That's how it feels to be an admiral.
Yeah, and he caps it all off. But no matter who comes at us, I'll drive each and every one of them back into the depths of the sea. Very, very cool.
Which, if we could, stop right there. Again, we just see the conviction, right? Oh, I like that. Oh, okay. I like, it's scene 1, 2, and 3, and each one kind of has that conviction of someone in 3 different parts. Whether it is old regime, not even necessarily new regime with Shanks, just that freedom is what we're vying for. And then this is, almost like just peacekeeping. He's like, no, you're going back to the, not necessarily old regime. I'm just trying to keep the status quo. I'm trying to keep everything quelled, and that is my job. And I like that, back into the depths of the sea.
Yes. And then there is the other side of all that, which is the fighting for freedom. Shanks experiences the freedom and is proclaiming the freedom. Akainu is looking to keep the status quo and keep things the way they are. And then Momonosuke in the first scene concludes it by saying, we got to fight our own battles. We have to fight for our freedom. So it's all, obviously it's all commentary on freedom. That's a lot of One Piece. But overall, I think this is a fantastic opening for an arc.
Fantastic start.
We got 3 separate plot lines to work with. Separate plot lines. Yeah. But we got 3 separate things as the opener for the arc, and they all feel important to be delved into, both in the first scene, something immediately to touch, the second scene as the overarching, that's the end goal. He's talking about the end goal right now. And then to have it capped off with the, oh, here's the more immediate background thing that might involve us.
Maybe.
But realistically speaking, it's its own thing. There's no real reason to get Luffy involved in this other than that it now involves Vivi.
Yep.
Vivi is the only member of the Straw Hat crew that is not
connection.
on board with any members of the Straw Hat crew.
I hope they bring that into. I mean, I feel like how can we neglect that? So maybe it's just tying back into. Maybe it's tying up loose ends, and I hope so because that was. I mean, Vivi.
Yeah, Vivi was great.
That was great. Yeah. Well, I feel like that was very divisive. I think you either really liked her or you really didn't. But I liked her. I liked the tenacity that she had. I liked the fighting that she was her own person. She had her own agency. But I think a lot of people didn't like her because it kind of felt like I mean she was going up against people at this point that were well above her station in terms of power. But she still fought. Yeah. And so I think a lot of people we see the Straw Hats. They're always fighting and they're good, right? And this is the first time we see someone that maybe she's not great at fighting against people with superpowers, or who are experts in their field, whatever their fighting style is, but she still fought. And to me, that made all the difference.
I mean, she was strong enough to become in the top 10 amongst the top 10 groups of Baroque works. Like she was Miss Wednesday.
Miss Wednesday.
And she was with Mr. 8, I believe. Mr. 8 with the bats.
Oh, I would have to look that up actually.
It's either 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Can't remember which though.
Yes.
That being said, I think it's about time for us to wrap up. I did want to go a little bit more into like the Alabasta Dressrosa juxtaposition and how if you don't like Vivi, then you definitely didn't like Rebecca. But that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole separate
That's a whole different thing. The Riku family was a nice tie-in to Alabasta stuff, but they really didn't need to do it again. Mm-hmm. I like the Nefeltari family a lot better than the Riku family, but that's neither here nor there. Well, with that said, that was our first reactions on recording, and future things that we record for this will probably be a little bit more genuine, more organic. We had time to read through this and we talked about
digest it a little bit more than possibly future.
Yeah, and so in the future, we're going to be really hoping to sit down and read this as it comes to us. Whether that's in the official release that comes out on Mondays or if we can manage to find it earlier.
Yeah.
Wherever we may be able to find it.
Wherever we may be.
Yeah. So keep an eye out for chapter 1055, which should be coming at the end of this week. And thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, we were the News Coup Crew, and this is our podcast, the News Coup Crew Podcast.